So let's jump into this. User-defined functions, right? How did this come about? Well, we teach an advanced class for Power Platform at Power Apps 911, and we taught one back on the 3rd of December. And we had a student in that class who had a really interesting use case, and he had a lot of really kind of messy code that he was trying to write to do linear regression calculations in his Power App, which is cool to begin with. This guy happened to be a machine learning guy who was building some tooling for, I guess, some of his colleagues in Power Apps, which I thought was awesome. So anyway, user-defined functions. This is not a new concept. These have been around for a while, but they're still experimental. So when we jump over to the demo, I'll show you how to enable them. And just, full disclosure, since they are experimental, be very careful using user-defined functions in a production setting. It's not recommended, but hopefully these will become available to us in preview and then ultimately GA someday, because they're really cool. So what are they? They're reusable named blocks of logic that you can define in your app to kind of centralize your complex formulas that you might reuse throughout the rest of your Canvas application. These are very similar to named formulas. So I don't want you to get those confused because they're not exactly the same, but they're in a similar vein, right? With named formulas, you can take expressions that you might use elsewhere in your application, and you can put them in the formulas property of your app. And then you can reference the name of that formula throughout your application. And you don't have to, keep putting the same code over and over and over throughout your app. So reusability is kind of the key feature here, right? Because it's a place where you basically set it and forget it, right? The Ron Popeil method. You put it in your formulas section, you can then update it, and it globally applies everywhere that you've referenced it, right? Your updates globally apply everywhere. So that really simplifies maintenance, right? Because you change logic in one place, it changes everywhere else. It's also better for organization of your code. So if you have, collaboration is a big thing in Canvas apps now. We have co-authoring. We have some things that we, are really enabling us to have larger teams of people to build these Canvas apps. And so having your, complicated code organized and in a single place where everybody knows where to find it, it's super helpful. So user-defined functions, right? There's a basic syntax around them. So just like with named formulas, they have kind of a unique syntax. So does user-defined functions. So as you can see down here, the function name is the first thing you put in, and then you open a parenthesis. So that's a little different than named formulas, right? Where named formula is just like the name of the formula you want to have and reference, and then you put in equals, and then you do whatever your logic is or your expression. Well, it makes sense that for a function, something that is going to have input and output properties, you would do it a little bit differently. So here you have the function name. You open it up, you open up the function, and then you define the parameters or the inputs that you want to put into the function. And so you can have, right, like input label 1, and then the data type. So, I mean, this should look familiar to all of us who use PowerFX on a regular basis, because this is essentially every single function in PowerFX works this way, right? You have the name of the function, and then you have the parameters of the function. The difference is in this case, you're defining it. So input label 1, and then the data type, right? Is it a number? Is it text? So I'm going to show you here in a second in the demo. It'll make more sense. But the point here is you can define as many inputs as you want. Then you have a colon, and then you put the output data type. So when your function produces its result, what data type should it be when it comes back? Should it be a number? Should it be a string or text? And so forth. So once you've defined that whole first piece, you then put your equals like you would do with named formulas. And then you put your formula logic. And by the way, don't forget a trailing semicolon. You got to have that in order to split things up. So we'll see that as well in the demo. So best practices and limitations. I find that I'm not very good at naming conventions. I try to be. I pretend that I am. I tell my family I'm good at them, but everybody knows I'm not great. But if you can think of descriptive names for your input and output properties, that's ideal, right? Something that if another developer comes in after you, they look at it, they're going to know right away, like, oh, this means this, or this is very obvious what I'm supposed to put in here for these inputs. And then what comes out of the function, same thing, right? Like it'd be nice to know what I'm getting back, so that it's not a big mystery when I go and try to use this in some piece of code that I'm writing. Also, document the function's purpose and the expected inputs, right? Use code comments. That's the easiest way to do it. If you have some other practice, if you maybe use Confluence or something to document your applications, that's fine too. I don't care how you do it. Just make sure you do it so that, other folks on your team and other developers or makers are going to be able to understand what you've done there. And then make sure that you test everything, right? I'm also not the best at testing because I'm always in a hurry all the time. But make sure if you are going to use this in a production application, which again, wouldn't recommend right now because it's still experimental, but if you do, make sure you test it very thoroughly before you just throw it out into the wild. Limitations. You can't have optional parameters right now. So this is something that I think, might change in the future. A lot of functions that we use in PowerFX have required inputs and then optional inputs, right? And those optional inputs can produce some additional output. But right now, the only thing that you can do is have required input parameters. And this was a big one for me when I first started playing with UDFs. No record or table data types are supported for either inputs or outputs right now. Is there a way that you could potentially use the old untyped object in there? Potentially, but we're not going to go into that today because we don't have time. But if you must investigate whether you can make a record input or table input on your user-defined functions, I would point you toward the untyped object. Okay, so what's the challenge? Well, the challenge was, how do we do simple linear regression as a user-defined function? Well, like I said, this machine learning student that we had, he uses linear regression a lot, apparently. And he's building an app, and he stopped building his app because he couldn't figure out how to do linear regression formulas in PowerFX. But he knew he could do it in Excel. So when he threw out this idea, I took that as a personal challenge to go and see if I could produce some simple linear regression formula for him. And once I realized I could do that, then we taught it as part of the lesson around user-defined functions. So, so what I'm going to do at this point is jump over to the Canvas app. So I thought what we could do first is just quickly point out that in order to get user-defined functions turned on, you have to go into the settings of your Canvas app. You have to go to updates and experimental, because like I said, it's still experimental. If you scroll down in through here toward the bottom, you'll see user-defined functions. Obviously, it's on for my demo here, but yours probably won't be. So you'll need to go and flip that on if you want to play with these. Also want to point out, I mentioned untyped objects. User-defined types. This could be another really cool community call topic in the future. Really, really useful, especially when dealing with things like SQL stored procedures that you're calling from Canvas apps. So could be a cool future topic. Maybe I'll make Shane do it. But enable user-defined functions. Okay, and once you've done that, you'll be able to go here to your app properties, and go to formulas. And this is where, if you've used named formulas at all, you would have your named formulas, right? Well, this is also where you'll have your user-defined functions. So let's just do like a really quick example, right? So we said that we have to have the function name. So let's do one that's just divide numbers, right? We open it up, we have our input. So I'm going to, like this is the label of our input parameter. So I'm going to say number 1, and the type is number, because remember we have to tell it what our data type is for our inputs. And we have number 2, and that's also a number. And then our output, you can see it's going to try to be helpful. Here are the types of objects that we can or sorry, the data types that we can output here. These are the same for input as well. So I'm going to output a number as well. So then now that we've defined, the name of our function, our input parameters, and the data type for our output, we can put our equal sign, and then we can put the actual expression logic, right? So in this case, I just want to divide number 1 by number 2. And I'm going to put my semicolon. So now that is a user-defined function that I can use. So if I throw a label on the screen, I can come in here and I can say divide, and you can see it suggests my function name. And then it tells me I need number 1 and I need number 2 in order to work. So let's just do 6 and 2. And you can see, maybe because it's kind of small, but let me zoom in. You can see our output there is 3. So very simple, right? This is how you set up like the most basic possible user-defined function. But I think you can see where we're going with this, right? So let's look at a more complicated user-defined function. So trying to follow my own best practices and recommendations here, I've got some code comments on what I did for this approach. So the basic thing we're trying to solve here, right? The basic math is for linear regression. And so what we need to do is pass in a couple of known x points and a couple of known y points. And so what we do is, because we can't pass in a table as our inputs, right? Remember, no tables are supported right now. We're going to pass in a string, a concatenated string with a comma delimiter of numbers. And so we take that, we split that into tables so that we can get our table values that we need. We convert those strings into numbers, and then we do the linear regression calculation. So we calculate the means of x and y. We get the covariance of x and y and the variance of x. We derive the slope and the intercept. And then the results that are going to come back, because again, we can't have a table as output. That would be preferable, but we can't. So we're going to return another concatenated string with the slope first and then the intercept. So I was thinking about rewriting this for you and kind of going through all this, but there's a lot here. So I'm just going to quickly kind of blow through this, and then we'll look at what the output looks like. But as you can see here, I created a formula called linear regression with 2 inputs, x and y. And then my output is also text, right? Because I'm getting that concatenated string of slope and intercept coming out. So the first thing I do is I take those strings and I split them up for the x and the y. I then calculate the number of points and the means for x and y. You're going to see a lot of nested widths in here because this is kind of a compounding thing here. We need the outputs of each step as inputs of the next one. So if you're not familiar with width, here's another quick tip for you. Go research width. It'll help you every single day that you're coding in PowerFX. So yeah, we do our means of x and y. We then take those, and we can come in here and do our covariance of x and y and our variance of x. Doing all summing things up, using our exponents, doing all of the math that we have to do. And by the way, I will post in the chat the link to Excel's documentation for LINEST, which breaks down all of the math of how I was able to put this in here and figure out and make it work. And then lastly, we do our slope and intercept calculation, right, by dividing the covariance of x and y by the variance of x. And we then produce our outputs, right? So text of slope and our comma delimiter and the text for intercept. So kind of a lot going on in there, but it's cool because now what I can do is in my app, I can have an x and a y text input. And then when I click my calculate button, I can call my function, right? So it looks much simpler, right? So again, if you think about what the point of user-defined functions is to simplify things. It's to make things easier to reuse, right? So imagine our student who had that giant formula everywhere in his app. Well, now all he has to do is put it in one place, and then he can call it like this, and it's super simple, right? So I'm going to set a variable result. I'm going to call my function with my x and my y inputs, And then I'm going to set two more variables for the purpose of this demo, where I just split off the slope first and then the intercept. So now I'm able to come in here and say something like, I don't know, 2, 4, and 4, 6. And if I hit calculate, I then get my slope of 1 and my intercept of 2. So pretty cool, right? It was neat that we were able to solve this problem, and it was neat to see how user-defined functions could have a practical use. And I'm excited to see what they do with it in the future, because again, having this in one space where we can come back and edit it and have it cascade everywhere else globally through our app is really cool. Because if they come back later and they say, hey, we're going to make some additional inputs optional now. Well, great. I don't have to go change this in 100 spots or do find and replace in 100 spots. I'll just go change it in one spot, and suddenly that becomes available everywhere it's used.